Hey, what's going on, everybody? Mr. Cornell here, going over some statistics with you. Our final chapter for the end of the year. We got 5 lessons, and then we can call this quits until we figure out what we're going to do next year. All right, so let's start with this first lesson, and we're going to look at some statistical studies. So, statistics is the science of collecting and analyzing numerical data. We've all seen it, heard about it. 2 out of every 3 dentists always recommend the same different type of toothpaste. So there are 3 types of statistical data that we have here. One of those types is observational. So you have an observational study. One of those types is an experiment, and another one is a survey. Okay, maybe you've seen or done one of these also. So nothing really too new here. All right, so there are 3 types of studies that we have. So the first one, an observational study, is one in which the values of one or more variables are observed with no attempt to affect the outcome. So data is simply gathered and the correlations are investigated. Okay, so it's just kind of like watching. There are lots of different observational studies. Here's a weird one for you. Is yawning contagious? So if you're just in a room watching a whole bunch of people and somebody yawns, watch and see if other people yawn. Okay, that's one type of observational study. A survey, probably done one of those before, requires asking a group of people to respond to one or more questions. A poll is an example of a survey, or if someone asks you you go around and ask a whole bunch of people what's your favorite movie, what's your favorite color, all of those things are types of surveys. And then an experiment is randomly assigned subjects to treatments for the purpose of seeing what effect the treatment has on some response. Subject could be people, animals, or any set of items that produce variability in their responses. What we're living right now, COVID-19, right? They're experimenting on all different drugs to see what could help people. Um, that's exactly what an experiment is. What's really important when you do any type of experiment or any type of study, no matter what it has to be randomized. Okay, you can't specifically target a group to try to favor an outcome. So randomization is an important aspect of collecting data in order to eliminate or minimize any type of bias in the result. So it's important that subjects to any study or experiment are chosen as random as possible. So let's do a couple practices and see how we're doing with this. So you want to know the proportion of the population that likes rap music, and carefully consider 3 ways to conduct a study. Classify each as an observational study, survey, or experiment. So you're going to read each one and decide which of the 3 it could be. So the first one, you could make a random sample of people and ask them a question. Do you like rap music? And record their answer. So that would be a survey, because you're asking them a specific question. You could pick a random sample of people and follow them for a period of time, noting their music purchases in stores and online. So that one would be observational. Why is it observational? Because you are just going to watch them and take notes about what they are buying. Okay? And the final one, you can pick a random sample of people, separate them into groups, and have each group listen to a different genre of music. Oh, Mrs. Cornell. You would collect data on the people who display an emotional response to the rap music. And then that one is going to be an experiment. Okay, so you're separating the group, and you're having them listen, and you're kind of, okay, so that's how you're going to be looking at that experiment there. All right, so here's just some more questions. You want to give a pause, try it on your own. So the first one, a chiropractor wants to test the effectiveness of a new muscle relaxant cream on his patients experiencing muscle spasms. He separates the patients into 2 groups and administers the cream to only one of the groups. Then he compares the results. Okay, so that one is going to be an experiment. 3. The Democratic Party needs to collect data on the preferences of their party member regarding a new bill that is being brought before Congress. Which method of data collection is most appropriate? Okay, So that is going to be a survey because they will be asking. Okay, college dorm has 5 common areas in the building. The college wants to convert one of the areas into a workout room. The dorm residents are polled to determine which common area is used the least, which is this, and that is also a survey. Which statement is not part of an observational study? This one's a little iffy. The researcher decides who will participate in the sample group. The researcher gathers data from samples using surveys or measuring instruments. The researcher divides the sample group into 2 groups, with one being a control group, and the researcher analyzes the data obtained from the sample group. Okay, 1 and 3 are usually the ones that people kind of go after. I like 1 for this one because if you're doing an observational study, you should have as minimal contact as you can. And since the researcher is deciding who's going to participate, that becomes a little bias in that part. Now, this one, that's why this one's a little like not fair, because the researcher divides the sample group into two groups. Okay, is he kind of looking at who he's picking? So they should kind of word that one better. So if you pick 1, great. If you pick 3, that's great too. That's okay. We're just trying to learn over here.
Sorry. Teachers aren't going to do themselves.
So here's bias and avoiding bias that we just talked about here in exercise 5. Just making sure you're not study. Oh, come on. We're trying to learn.
Sorry. Last one.
Okay. Exercise 6. Okay, same thing, but now we're just going to be kind of wording out what we're reading. So describe the possible problem with how the participants are chosen in each of the following cases. Okay, so we're trying to find what possible problems that someone could maybe attack my study for. So suppose we want to know how long students at the high school spent doing homework last week. So we go to the school library and ask the first 30 people we encounter. So why would this be a problem? Well, don't you think that people that are going to the library are going there to study or read or do something productive in that manner? So they would be biased towards maybe potentially doing more homework. Okay, so we could say it would be biased because many people are there to work in the first place. Okay. B. Suppose a school district wants to determine if the community would be in favor of installing a new turf field. Survey parents at a football game. So why would this be a bias? Because, well, you're surveying people that are there to enjoy a game. So those people would be biased towards having a new turf to watch their football games on. Okay. So we would say that the people are there to enjoy a game, so would be in favor of a new field. All right, last one. Suppose we want to determine how much sleep high school students get on a typical night. So they survey the first 100 students to arrive to school on a particular morning. So why is that going to be a problem? Because you're only going to survey the first 100 students in the morning. So don't you think that the first people there are usually the ones that wake up the earliest and may or may not be getting the most sleep? So that's why you'd find some bias there. Most students first. May be getting more sleep. Okay, we'll say because they're up early. Alright, let's keep it going here. Okay, so exercise 7. Suppose we want to know the average number of hours a CI student spends doing his or her English homework. How might we go about finding this information? Okay, survey, English. classes. Okay, so if you went into English rooms and asked those students how much they spend doing their homework. So what is the population? So the population are the CI students. Is it possible to reach the entire population? Yes, because all of those students go to Central Islip and you can get in contact with all Central Islip students. If they wanted to say the survey was of Long Island, then no, we wouldn't be able to get all students, but it's a fairly small population. If we wanted to use a sample of this population, how could we avoid bias? Okay, we could randomly survey different English classes. How could we pick a random sample? So if we're going to be random, how to kind of make sure that I'm random? Using different classes, whether they're honors or regular, with different teachers. So it wouldn't be a good idea to just sit and shadow one single teacher for the whole day. Just make sure you go to different teachers. Okay, exercise 8. Which is least likely to contain bias? Surveying a sample of people leaving a health food store. Well, right there, they're probably healthy people. Surveying a member of a basketball team to determine the most watched TV sport. Well, if you're going to be asking basketball team people, then they're probably into sports. Surveying a sample of people leaving a supermarket to determine which color iPhone they have. Supermarkets and iPhones don't really go together. Surveying a sample of people leaving a restaurant to determine the average number of times they eat out per week. Well, if they're at a restaurant, then they probably eat out. So the most random one that would have the least bias seemed like letter C. And number 9, in an attempt to avoid bias in observational studies and surveys, assign subjects to a control group, select subjects at random, analyze the data the same day, and publish the results in a well-known journal or article. Okay, so just make sure the more random you are, the less biased you are. And to sum it up, when viewing a statistical study, you should consider whether the group collecting the data has an interest in the outcome of the study. Well, that would be important. Whether the study is recent. Okay, you don't want to read something from 1925. Whether the sample size of the study was sufficient to generalize the findings. Yep. Okay, you want to make sure you have a good sample size. You don't want to ask 2 people. Whether the data used was the complete data or was there a condensed form of the data? Nope, we don't want that. And okay, it seems like all of these things are good, so we'll go for all of the above. And there it is. There is your introduction to surveys, observational studies, and experiments with randomization and avoiding bias. Hope it helps. Peace out.